Okay. Okay, so I will start. I just want to let everybody know that I sent out a shared drive that was called Google Gadgets, and inside that drive contains everything we'll talk about today. So you can take notes if you want to. You don't have to. That's totally up to you. And we sent like screenshots with instructions too, so hopefully that makes it easier. I wrote down the few who do not belong in the EAS or the AES, so Amherst Elementary School, so that we can send it your way too if it's something you want. But I'm going to share my screen with you because we will, or I'll show you what we're doing. That way you can see it from hopefully my perspective as the teacher, and then also what a student will see. So we'll start.
Can I ask you a question really quick? I noticed that in that drive there were some math slides that we didn't have access to. Is that something we should have access to?
We were trying something out and I accidentally put that in there, so then I removed it because it was just something we were trying.
Okay.
Yep, and I can show you, the one I put in there is just something to show you. I think Beth will talk more about it later this week in a different scenario, but what it would look like if you didn't have Google and you needed to get the stuff linked through Google Slides. So just in there as a format. All right, so I'll share my screen so you guys can see. I'll start with Google Classroom. Okay, so when you would like to create your own Google Classroom, you're going to be on Google through either Chrome or Safari, whatever your whatever one you have on your computer. So you go to the waffle icon or the app launcher, and down here there is one that says Classroom. It looks like a chalkboard. If it's not in here, there's usually a thing that says like more choices at the bottom, and you could choose it in there too so that it shows up here. When you click, I have some in here, one from last year, one that I was playing with for this year. But I'll show you how to make one so that you know what it looks like. So as the teacher, when you come in here, you're gonna click the plus icon, and it's gonna ask you to join or create a class. As a teacher, you want to create a class. So when you do that, it's gonna ask you to name that class. And I usually put my name and the school year attached to it, so I know which one to toggle between if I have multiple open. So I'll just label this one Demo for our purposes so that you guys can see what it looks like when you first create it. Okay, so you have all sorts of options, which are just things that you can do to make it look pleasing. You can select a different theme if you want. You can upload photos, but a lot of the stuff on here is going to look exactly the same no matter which theme you choose. Your stream is kind of like your Facebook wall. We learned in 4th grade that you should turn off the comments if you have co-teachers attached to this, because every time a student would comment, it would send an email to every person that's attached to your Google Classroom. But if that's something you're going for it, then leave it on. We were not going that way in 4th grade, so we turned off their commenting abilities. So when you want to add students to your classrooms, you have two options. So we were talking like older elementary or middle school, high school. You could probably have them log in themselves and then click that plus icon that I showed you, and they would join a class, and you would just show them the class code. So the class code is here on the main screen, or it is also under people. Class code is right here too. So it's in two places, whichever one you would like to use. I think if you click this one, it makes it giant. So we usually project that on our screen to share with our students. If you're K-1-2, it might be easier for you to input their email addresses. That is something you just have to make sure that is live and capable. So that's something that I think we have to make sure Jim has done for you. And how you would do that is under people. You would go into students, and right here, this little person with a plus sign. It would ask you to type in their name or their email. So like if I wanted to add my husband, I could, okay? And then their name would hopefully show up and you would just click invite on the bottom. I won't invite him though. He doesn't need to be in my classroom. But you could. And then we're looking at other teachers. This could possibly be something that you use to make it simple for students, especially with specials teachers. If you're looking at the kids being able to get everything they need in one place, it might be best to add your art, your music, even maybe possibly RTI. It depends what your building may decide or your grade level decides to do. I know the specials teachers I've talked to have said it would be nice just to join the classrooms and then create topics under their class work so that the students have the ease and access of just going to one place to find all of their assignments. But you do the same thing. You would click here and you type in that name or that email address and then invite that person. Now, when you invite a co-teacher though, they can do everything you can do in there except delete the classroom itself. So they can add assignments in there. They can look at grades. They can do all sorts of things just like you can do. They just can't delete the classroom itself. So that's something to think about when you're trying to decide whether to add teachers or not. I know we've added Sherry in the past as an administrator, which is sometimes nice so they can see what you're doing too as we go about using this in some format this year.
Kristen, could you say again how that code is used? Because I know this year I ended up inputting all my students, but how is that code used?
So the students would log in, Judy, into like using their Google account at school, and then they would go to the same place. They'd go to the app launcher over here, and they would click the Google Classroom icon, and they would get that little plus sign. Watch, I'll do it again. And here, they would click join a class, and it would ask them for that class code, and then your classroom would pop up, and that'd be one that they could join in.
And is the class code under my name displayed for them, that they're just copying it off the screen, or do I have to send it to them?
Nope, it can be right off the screen. So like in my classroom right here, it's right here, and this button makes it huge so that they can actually see it and type it themselves. But
Okay.
is it, you know, older elementary, middle, high school, probably something they can do easily. I'm not so sure if K1-2 would feel comfortable doing it that way, but it's an option.
Okay, Kristen, I have a question too. So I made one last year for my kindergarten class. I had to make a new Gmail account because Google did not let me make it with my school email. And then when I made the new Google account, I was able to make the classroom or whatever. But then the families were not able to use the code to be added to the classroom unless they had Gmail accounts.
I don't think our kindergartners have Google accounts.
Guess what?
Oh, you were using the students' school.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so kindergartners don't.
So
Okay.
might be something we have to figure out what they're doing. Sherry, unless you have an idea, is Jim going to give access for K1-2 students?
Yep, they will not have email addresses that they can use, but they do have Google accounts now.
Okay. So that would still work to put them in that way. They just won't have an emailing capabilities.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But I also just want to throw out there right now that K1 and 2 won't necessarily, I don't know, I don't, we got to be really careful with what I say because things have changed so many times over the last week. So Beth, if I say something wrong, you know, they'll be using Seesaw and then utilizing Google Slides to create their daily lessons and then link them into Seesaw. So I don't know that they'll necessarily have a Google Classroom as well as a Seesaw.
Perfect. You know. Okay. So if you're so like I'm in my Google Classroom, if you're in there and you want to create an assignment, you go into classwork and in there you hit the blue create button. And what it does is it gives you a whole bunch of options. You can create an assignment, a quiz, just pose a question, which then the kids can just respond with an answer. kind of looks like your stream would look. A material, this would be something if you just want to share a website with them, a story you want them to just be able to click on and read, or if you want to create a topic. And I'll go to topics later, I don't want to confuse you. But if you wanted to create an assignment, all you do is click assignment, and then this pops up. So I've always titled the assignments like if it's something I want them to do for writing, like my favorite place. And then I provide instructions for the students, most of them, take the time to read it. But it also helps me just remember what exactly I'm asking of them to do. And then if you have something already created that you want to add, sometimes we've done this with Google Slides, where like we have the kids create a slide and share it themselves. You can go right into your Google Drive and pick that up and add it. And once you add something like that, it's going to ask you if you want them to be able to view it, if you want them to be able to edit it, or if you want to make a copy for them so that they can't edit anything that you have. We do in 4th grade. It seems to work well. That way our original copy is safe. You can also link in here files from like Microsoft, so Office, Word, Excel can go in here too, and YouTube videos.
Can I jump in, Kristen?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great idea to, when you upload your slides from your slideshow, slide deck, whatever you want to call it, select the function that makes a copy for each student. That way they each get their own copy and they can type into it, add things, whatever, and you can, as the teacher, see it and then make comments and give them feedback on that. And the files would be like you said, like you'd be uploading a book or a PDF or like a worksheet or whatever, pictures and that kind of thing. But it's important to make a copy for each student, I think.
Beth and Kristen, I recall doing that this last spring. But I don't remember exactly how to do it. So you click on the Google Drive, it takes you to your drive, I upload it in there, and it will automatically prompt you to make a copy, correct?
Yes.
It'll give you 3 options.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I
remember doing that, but I couldn't remember if it actually prompted you or not. Okay,
thank you. Something like this. Not that we need it, but so if I want to insert it, so it's going to say students can view this file, which might be okay, except I want students to be able to create something. So then students can edit it. Now what I want to do, this is my original, I want to be able to keep it. So I have make a copy for each student. So whatever my Google slide looks like, or my document here, they now have a copy for themselves. So no one else can see what they're doing on theirs except the teacher. I usually do this with reading prompts that I type in. So they have their own reading prompt copy. So the prompt is on the top, there's space on the bottom, and then they can type their response. And then they just are able to submit it when they're done.
Kristen, I have a question. I got hung up a few times about when I would make a copy for each student, and then let's say I go back to that assignment I gave them and I wanted to change a word or something on there. Do they get the updated copies, or do they just get the original copy I gave them?
I believe they get the original copy, Beth, if you know.
Yeah, that you have to be, I've also ran into this. Tons of teachers do. You have to be very sure that whatever you post is the final copy, because you cannot make changes without deleting what you've already posted and then reposting the one that's made your changes.
Got it.
As soon as you post or get that Google slide deck that all set as you want it, as soon as you click make a copy for each student and assign it, you can't make any changes. That's a very important thing to remember.
Perfect, thank you.
Beth, there's no way to get it back from everyone?
You could delete the assignment, yes, and then repost it. So I've definitely had to do that. I've definitely had to put a message on the main feed and say, oh, kiddos, sorry, I made a mistake. I'm deleting this assignment. I'm reposting it. Here you go.
Well, and you have to delete it before they start working on it, because otherwise you're deleting the work they already put in. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Good questions, absolutely. So if this is what you want and you realize you have everything here, and then you're gonna look to make sure it goes under the right Google Classroom. So this may be something for middle school, high school, That's most important because you may have multiple Google Classrooms. So like I'm making sure it goes under my 2021 classroom, which is good. I can assign it to all the students at once, or if I have my students, I have a demo student in here, you can assign it to that particular student or a group of particular students. Maybe they joined early, maybe it only relates to their small group that you're working with that you want them to complete this, or maybe you've differentiated instruction and they need a different copy of something than other groups do. So you can assign all or assign particular students. A point value or no point value is possible. Due dates.
Can I just jump in before you go? One more tip or trick with the points. If you intend to return the slide deck to your students so that they can see the comments that you've made, you want to make it ungraded. Because if there's points, then it starts to, Google Classroom starts to make like a grade book for you, and you're not able to return it and put feedback on there. Does that make sense?
Say that again, Beth. So instead of picking points, pick ungraded.
Yes, pick ungraded, because then, so like when the students turn it in at the end of the day of Wednesdays, it's your virtual day, you can then go back and look at what they did and put comments and return it to them so that they can see your comments. If you put the points, you don't have that ability. It'll just be turned in and that's it. They will not be able to see your feedback.
Actually, I think they did, because I didn't, if I didn't grade it and I didn't assign them points when they turned it in, I said, you need to finish this up and do a little bit more. Could I be
right,
wrong?
but it depends on where. I'm talking about the slide deck that you actually, so like what I made my slide deck, I had the math, the reading, the writing, science, social studies, and I would make comments on what they turned in on the actual slide deck. That's what they would not be able to see if I didn't put ungraded.
Got it, got it.
Whereas if you gave them a comment on their account saying, hey, I noticed you didn't turn in math or whatever, that's different. They will see that.
And if it was just one, let's say it was just one worksheet, because I did make comments on there and highlight things, but I didn't give them a score. What is one worksheet different than a whole slide pack?
Well, in terms of when they turn it in, if they turn in one worksheet, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, let's say I had a writing prompt and they had to write on it, and they had to, they had to turn in some sentences about the movie they watched, and then they would click turn in and I would see it, and then I would say, you need to go back and check your grammar and punctuation and resubmit this.
So it depends on where you left the comment, because you probably left that comment on their student, like the feed on their page. And whereas if you did the ungraded, you could physically on the actual copy of the PDF that you had them fill out, make comments on there instead.
Got it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so I'll keep going. Thank you, Beth. All right, due dates I think are important, because what'll happen if you put a due date on something, it'll show up next to your stream, so the kids will see like upcoming due dates or upcoming assignments, and it'll show them that stuff. So we say this is due on Thursday. Time, I never put a time on. I figure if they finish it at any point of the day, that's great, but a time you can also put on, it'll give you all sorts of options there. Topic would be the heading. So your topics could be subjects that you put or frequently used activities. So like math, reading, science, social studies. Right now I've only created 2 topics. One's community building and one is math. So let's say I want to put this under math. Okay, so then when I post the assignment, that's where it'll show up. This is nice. It can check for plagiarism or originality if you check that box. So with assign, something else that is nice, you can assign it right now if you want to. If you click this arrow, you can schedule to assign it. So like, let's say you're working on this on Wednesday and you want to actually have it become something they can see and begin working on Friday. You can click schedule and you can pick the date that it'll go live on your classwork page and the time.
Where was
So-
that arrow, Kristen?
It's right next to the word assign.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of these things I would do, especially for like announcements on my stream, I would have a time and a date assigned to them. So like at 7:30 every morning, it was there, whether I was able to get on the stream at 7:30 or not. Some kids, they're like clockwork. They need that kind of stuff always in the same place at the same time. So it's a nice feature if you want it. Otherwise, you can assign it immediately. So we'll click assign just so you can see where it goes when it does this. All right, sure, taking its sweet time. Okay, so then it'll show you up right here. So under my math, your most recent one goes on top. You can switch those things around if you want, because it'll say like move down. But it'll show up right here, and it'll show you what it is. So like if I would have any type of instructions, those would show up. If you clicked the assignment, the attachment should show up, and it'll show me how many are turned in and how many are assigned. Now, if I want to create a topic, because I don't have a topic, I don't have a heading, you can go into create and you can go into topic. So this is where you could type in reading, or you could type language arts or whatever it is. So that way you can kind of organize your assignments to make sure that they're easy to find for yourself or your students at the same rate. And if they're talking published posts like we talked about, you can schedule a post. The published ones are all those C. So until they go live or published, your students won't be able to see them.
As a special subject teacher, with my 5th and 6th grade in spring, I use the topics just to keep that clean for the classroom teacher, so my stuff wasn't all over the place. And then I would always schedule also, because I didn't want to post something when they were having like a Google Meet or something like that. So I found out from the teacher when the best time for me to post my FIED stuff was. So then I would do it that way.
Great, thank you, Sue.
I have another comment on that too. I organized it a little bit different because I was just shooting from the hip, but I found that with the limited things I was doing, my topics were Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Perfect.
And then I had like the reading assignment, the math, that for each of those days. So they didn't have to look around at all. They just knew these were the Monday things. And when I got done with my Monday things, I was done. I don't know if that's.
No, that's good too. That's perfect, Kathy. Absolutely. Whatever you can make function and work for your students, whatever their needs are, however they look at something is always.
If they're on those if you put them by topics like that, then they need to scroll through each topic, or they'll see the dates, correct?
You'll see the dates. Yep.
Okay, got it.
They will. They will. Okay. So as far as Google Classroom, at this point, this is all I have, just basic, how to create it, how to get started, how to assign your students, and then create your topics to put your assignments under. So Caitlin is going to go next and talk a little bit about Google Meet, unless there's other questions.
So I just have one question.
Yes.
So would there be any advantage to creating a reading classroom, a math classroom? Or do you feel that it's easier for them to navigate it by doing it either by the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or by the topics this way?
I feel it's best to keep all of the students, especially younger kids or even upper elementary, into one classroom, because they struggle a lot trying to figure out where something's located to start with. Even though it looks really nicely laid out, even though you can assign them like the daily schedule or weekly schedule, they still can't find that to figure out what they need. And I even created a topic that said like weekly schedule, and all they had to do was click on like the date that like Monday started, and we still struggled. But hopefully they get better because they'll be using it more. So by the time they get to you, Leah, it should be better than it is.
Last year for RTI, we had our own classroom. I was not connected to any of the classrooms, and our students seemed to do okay. So it probably would have showed up as another classroom, another icon, and it was just titled Reading RTI or Math RTI. And I would say most of our students did okay finding what they needed to in there. So probably just depends on the student.
Well, because right now I have created a classroom for each subject area. But my concern was then they need all those different codes and have to navigate between them, because I didn't realize you could do it this way with the topics. So I was just kind of interested to see how it has worked for different people. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Hey, Leah, I would check with the 6th grade team and see how those teachers are organizing theirs so that yours is consistent, so that in case kids have to switch homerooms halfway or move around, they're set up the same way. So I would just check with them.
Yep, great idea, Nick. Thank you. Thank you.
So also, I just want to throw out there also that when Beth does some of her trainings during in-service, we're going to kind of make it a little more streamlined. All of these things are ways you can do things, but doing things by day, and if we do them, even if it's K-8, very similarly, if it's in a Google slide doc by a day, it's going to be much easier for our families if we're all doing it very similarly. I don't know if that's a word, than if we're all doing something different. So just know that these are all different ways you can do things. But by day is how we are going to encourage and require you to do them instead of by topics.
Okay, so Sherry, are you saying similar to what Kathy was talking about? Or you would have a classroom that's Monday?
To be completely honest, I wasn't fully listening. I'm kind of doing a couple things, so I didn't hear exactly what Kathy. I'm sorry, Kathy.
Once again, Sherry, once again.
Like, I just get used to tuning her out, and then after the board meeting, I know I can do that and get away with it now. So.
All right. Well, Leah, I can help. Kathy organizes her topics by day, and that's what Sherry said is going to be required or strongly encouraged.
Yeah.
Not the way I'm showing you. Does that help?
Okay. Yep, that does help, because then I will just reorganize my things that way.
Awesome.
Well, because what you can do is you've got your, like what Sherry was saying about making it more streamlined with the slide deck. So everybody's going to have a slide deck that they assign by day. Now, if you are a person who uses Google Classroom in your classroom for other stuff, you can make topics for those particular things. Or like let's say you want to post resources, you can make a topic for science. And then underneath it, you could post a material or a resource or anything you want, if you want to do that.
Okay, all right, thanks.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly what Beth said, that's exactly what I was going to say.
That is good. Can one of you talk about the difference of, here I'm trying to click on your slide and I can't do that. Talk about the difference between, I get assignments and that worked great, and I don't know how it went, but it went fine. But now material and what's the other thing under that? Yeah, go to create. Thank you. Yep. Material, question. Can you run through what those are, how that works?
So a quiz assignment is just that. I think it's a Google form that you would have them fill out to do a quiz on a book or something that you just taught in math or reading or science. And then it can grade itself as long as you give it point values. It can't grade open responses. So that is a possibility. And that is under the second one. That is under a quiz assignment. A question, you're going to pose one question. And then the kids get a short answer response to that question. So you can easily see, did they answer it? Because their response will be there with their name toggle.
I think that one you can do multiple choice too, if I'm right, besides the short answer.
I used it for a daily check-in, and I did a would you rather question, so I made it multiple choice.
Okay, here, let me go like this. There you go. So you have options there. And then your material, Kathy, that's where we're talking your resources, your websites, those kind of things, so that they don't have anything but the ability to click on it and look at.
So that's where I would put my vocabulary words that I wanted them to go to, or my math websites, or those types of things, correct?
Yes.
And they don't turn in anything there, that's just a viewing option.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and can you tell me then how, Caitlin, when you did your would you rathers, were they able to see each other's responses?
You could choose if you wanted them to see the results or not. So Kristen, if you go back to that,
Yep,
so
absolutely.
create question, and then if you make it multiple choice, is it on the side? Students can see class summary. And mine was just kind of a fun check-in, so I always left that on.
So you can turn it on or you can turn it off.
So where would you put like a writing assignment where it's not a short answer, it's, you know, longer writing that you want?
If that's part, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I say I would put it under assignment, but then I would attach something to it, like a Google document with the directions or the prompt on it, and share a copy with each student. My recommendation.
And how do you share a copy with each student?
So when you attach the item,
okay, like a word bank or something, or instructions.
Yep. I guess it doesn't matter what it is. Here, we can attach this. So right here, it'll say students can view the file, you can edit, or you can make a copy. And that's where you would make a copy for each student to be able to have their own to write in.
Okay. So you could skip the instructions section and you could just put your instructions on what you shared with each student.
Yes, absolutely.
How does that end up under the topic that you wanted to end up under?
So on the left side over here, there are a bunch of options for you, and one of them is topic.
Oh, so you
and then you just put it under.
Go there.
Yep. And if you need to create one that's not there, you hit create and you can make a topic. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And you choose which topic it goes under.
And Kristen, can you talk about how you used your stream?
Normally, I just posted stuff on my stream. So I would post like, good morning, you know, here are what we're doing today. Here are the announcements. Here is a reminder of what the Google Meet that's happening at this time. Then later I would link the Google Meet link on there. But now there's this really cool Google Meet link option that Caitlin will talk about. And so it was just more of informational, because we ran into problems with students posting stuff that was not educationally necessary on my stream, my students. I don't know what the other classrooms were like.
So is that where you shut off the comments so the students could not comment to anything you posted?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you show it real quick how you shut that off?
Oh gosh. Caitlin, do you remember?
I think the 3 lines on the left side of the screen next to your name. Is it there? Or maybe it's under the settings bar. Oh, settings.
Settings. Let's see.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Go back to your classroom. It was the settings under the classroom. Sorry.
That's okay. Who knows? My settings under my classroom.
Go on the right side by
Your icon by the waffle.
Oh.
Oh,
So,
no.
Nope.
No.
The gear.
Sorry.
That
Here
one. And then if you scroll down.
Oh.
And then right where you were highlighting, there's a thing for stream, and you can move so go up about 6 inches.
Go up 6 inches.
And then about right on the bottom, there's this thing for stream.
So stream, they can post comments, they can only see comments, or teachers can post or comment.
I also took my classwork off the stream so that it was just my announcements for the day there. But I think that's.
So Caitlin, did they just know to always go to assignments to find their classwork? Is that?
Yeah, I had them always click on classwork to get to their assignment. I worried about the stream getting to be too much stuff and them not being able to find, because I put their daily schedule and then the Meet links there. But
It just stop looking at it if it's too cluttered.
right.
Yeah.
Caitlin, here's my question. So I didn't know how to do the topics in that last year. So basically I just used the stream and everything got posted on the stream.
Mm-hmm.
And when the kids completed like if there was something for them to watch, like a lesson for them to watch, they in the comments would list their name, so I'd know who'd been there, and they'd list the answer to like a riddle that I had asked during the lesson. Then I knew they weren't just posting their name. But if I have assignments that are material, if I'm posting like a lesson that I want them to watch, a video, is there any way that I'll know if they watch it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The as Sherry said with the streamlining is you're going to put all your assignments and all your videos and your resources in one slide deck.
Right.
And
Like,
then you will know if they have gone to like clicked on it to open it, because you will see if you, well, it's not on the screen right now, but like as soon as you know how we did the students create your own copy for each student, there's a folder where those go in your drive. Yep, the class drive folder. And so you will be able to see all the slide decks that you've assigned. And so if they, Judy, if they have clicked it, there'll be a copy with their name on it. Now, in terms of if they've watched the videos, you don't know that.
Because there's nowhere for them to comment if you turn, can they comment if you don't turn the comments off? Can they comment on those things that you post in your topics?
Well, if you do the assign to every student, they're going to be able to comment on their slide deck right there. And there is, yes, a place for them to have a private comment with you and just them.
But I don't see those all at once. I have to go to individual students to see if
Yes. Yes.
Like on the stream, I could go to the video and I could see all the names. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that had watched the video. But the thing we're going to have, like, I'm assuming that you then assigned something to go with the video.
Well, they had like, it would be a video of like me teaching a lesson. Then they had
Yep. So that's all going to be on your slide deck from now on.
Okay.
And so on your slide deck, you'll post your video, and then you'll have the learning engagement that you want them to complete after watching your lesson, and then they turn it in. So you'll know if they've done it.
Beth, can you just really quickly explain what a slide deck is?
Okay, sorry. Yes. It's a slideshow. It's the exact same thing as a slideshow. So you've got but it's like a deck of cards, you know? And so each slide is gonna have on there, so reading, writing, math, for the single subject teachers, it's just gonna be, PE, art. For middle school and high school, it's going to be, whatever class, if they're teaching trigonometry or chemistry, that's what it's gonna be. And on those slides, then you're gonna insert your video where you've done your mini lesson, then you're gonna insert the activity that you want them to complete. And when they hit the turn in button, you go to your class drive folder and you'll be able to see everything that they've done and that if they've completed the assignments or not. And when you assign a date it has to be due by a certain, so like by the end of the day on Wednesday by 4 p.m., let's say, you'll be able to see who's turned in their slides and who has not. So yes, Judy, I guess in a way you will know if they've seen it or not, because they will have turned it in or they will not have turned it in.
But I'll only be able to see it if I go to individual students. I won't be able
No. You can see that on a stream. If you go to if you go to classwork.
Yep. I mean classwork.
Yep. And so you see how it says 0 turned in, 1 assigned?
Yes.
And if you click on assigned or turned in, it'll show you everybody that's turned it in.
Okay.
And it'll show you who has not turned it on the left side there.
Yeah. Okay.
So Beth, what I'm hearing you say is you gave them, when you gave them an assignment, you had, let's call those things index cards, just for old time's sake. So you gave them an index card with their math assignment on, and then you made another index card with their reading assignment, and then you gave them that whole pack of those. Is that kind of how you're saying this?
Yes. And then the students, based upon how you are like whatever you're requiring them to do. So like if you give them for the writing bit a writing prompt, they could type it up in a Google Doc and attach that to their Google Classroom and with their assignment. So you could see that they've completed that. If you want to attach a math PDF with the worksheet that they then on their own math notebook, write down their answers to the math problems, take a photo, upload it to that index card.
Got it.
And at the end of the day, they turn in all that in those index cards, and then you're able to see what they've done or not done.
Okay, and I guess I approached it as just, I did the math one separately. It showed up in the assignments as math for today. Then I did a separate assignment as reading for today, and a separate one as,
What we found, so I taught at the, well, and I was also on, I was the curriculum coordinator at the Anglo-American School of Moscow. The feedback that we got from parents and kids was they liked having a one-stop shop. So that's why we did the index cards, the slide deck, so that there was everything in one slide deck. There was no mistaking or not being able to find something. It was all in one place, and then they turned it into one place.
That would make sense. And I think that's why I organized my things Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because they would go up to Monday, do each of those individual Monday things. Then they would do the Tuesdays. But I see what you're saying is putting it all in, kind of like creating a folder for them to have all their assignments for the day.
Yep.
Got it.
So Beth, as special subjects, we would create a slide for each of those days and insert it ourselves into the classroom teacher's
Yeah, so that's a good question.
slide deck.
Yes, so we're going to be talking about that during the staff in-service, I believe. Sherry, jump in and tell me if I'm wrong. Like I'm going to be doing a PD on Thursday about slide decks, but then yes, single subjects, what we did in Moscow was that single subjects came, so like, let's say you're a 4th grade team, right? Or even, you know, middle school, you have your slides that you're going to assign. You have to share it with the single subject teachers and the RTI teachers. We had speech therapists that were setting things up with kids separately, but they all inserted it into our slide deck. So that way the kids didn't have to go to a separate Google Classroom or a separate, you know, Seesaw or an email or anything like that. It was all in that one slide deck. It was like a one-stop shop.
So did they get a slide deck per day or per week?
Per day.
Fuzzy on the slide deck thing.
Per day.
Okay, hold on. I don't want to get too much into all of that because that's going to be done, you know, in another training. We've got Caitlin and Kristen here that have something prepared for today, and I want to keep going with that. So not that those aren't all great questions, but I know Kristen and Caitlin have something planned for today, and I want to get back to that. So go ahead, guys.
Caitlin, it's all you. I'm done.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over some basic Google Meet stuff, and we found that Google Meet is what works on Chromebooks, and since that is what the school is providing, it's the best platform to use versus Zoom. Zoom on Chromebooks does not work well. So I'm going to share my screen.
Zoom is also not safe, so we will not be using Zoom with students anymore.
All right, so you can get to Google Meet 2 different ways. You could type in meet.google.com, or over here, this grid, your Google Apps, you can click that. And then Google Meet has like a little video camera on it. And like Kristen said before, if you don't see it for some reason, you could go find it with more, but it should show up. When you click on Google Meet, it will take you to this screen. And this is where you could start a meeting. You can also schedule them in your Google Calendar, and I will show you how to do that. So I would typically, on my Google Classroom stream, I would just start my meeting before I was ready, like right before I was ready to meet with my students, and then post it in there. So I'm gonna click join or start a meeting. And then what we found, and Kathy had mentioned this to me last year, and Kristen and I tried it, if you give it a nickname, it would prevent the students from rejoining after you hung up. And I logged in as a student and Kristen logged in as a teacher, and we tried that and it worked. Once Kristen hung up, I was no longer able to use that link to get back into the meeting. So then you would click continue, and you have the option for turning your camera and microphone on or off. It won't work right now because my camera is being used for Zoom. So it'll just show my picture. And then you can click join now. If you want to create the links and schedule them before, I can show you that you can do in Google Calendar. So if you click your apps and go to calendar, and then you click where you want to, like the date you want to schedule it on. So if I wanted to schedule a meeting for later today, I can click there. And then I can give it a name. And I can click add Google Meet video conferencing. And I would want to add the time too. I can pick a time. And then add Google Meet video conferencing, and that will generate a link for you. So if I click this arrow here, here's the link that I could copy and paste wherever I wanted it, or wherever I wanted to share it. You can also add guests. So if I wanted to send this out to people in an email, I could click here and enter their names. And then I can save that. So then it shows up on my calendar. So I could have them all there. It will also show up if you go to Meet, it'll also show up on your schedule for that day. So it shows up right here that I have a meeting at 2:30, and I can click there to join it.
Caitlin, when you put it on your calendar, where do you give a name for that meeting? Or when would you do that if you have it scheduled on your calendar?
I don't know that you can. I haven't tried that to see if I can give it a nickname that way.
Okay.
Well, I think that'll come when you guys decide what your schedule is going to be like, you know, for that particular, like the Wednesdays, and then you can set up a list. Okay, these 4 kids at this time are meeting with me. Here's the Google link. Then the next half an hour or whatever, these kids are meeting with me at this time, or this block is open to sign up and we can have a Google Meet. Here's the link. Does that make sense?
That does, but I was asking more about, I realized we had to name that meet and then the kids couldn't get in there, and I wouldn't want to do a meet without having that security option.
Yeah.
So Kristen and I can maybe test that for you, and we can get back to you and let you know.
Excellent. Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, so Kristen, meet you at 2:30, okay? We'll find a time and try that out. Because yeah, that was, I always wanted to make sure I deleted my links so that the students weren't going back in and reusing them. Because without a nickname, they could go back.
So that's something like what we did in Moscow was we set up the tech coordinator set up the Google Meets so that I had one code for my Google Meet the whole time. And then what we had to do is the tech coordinator had to enable that link so that students could get on, but then you had to police it and you had to send messages to parents to make sure kids weren't going on there, because we had kids who would go on and have a little tea with each other and goof around. So that's, yeah. We'll have to talk about that with Sherry and get back to you on that.
So Caitlin, if you name it, that'll keep the kids from joining early. And once you close it, it closes it forever for them as well?
As long as they're out first, and I'll show you how you can remove the students. And I logged in as Kathy River, who is a test student. Okay. And she was not able, once Mrs. Anderson closed it, I tried to join it again and it said I could not as a student account, so. All right. So once I join in the meeting, it really is similar to Zoom. It doesn't have all the features, but they're actually working on adding a lot more features. So as those come out, we can share that. This is a place right when you join, you can copy the joining info. So you just click on that, and then I would post that in my stream when I was ready for them to join my meeting. If you've closed out of that and you need that information again, over in the left-hand corner, there's meeting info and it has the nickname there. I can click on that and copy the joining info in there. So that's how I always shared mine out. Up here, it also does give the option to invite people, add people. I'm not sure how that would work with our students because I know at 4th grade they don't have email access. So my best way was to share the link with them on the stream. So let's see. A couple other things. So the bottom right-hand corner, there's more options. And I always made sure I use that to change the layout. They did update it to have a tiled view, which was my preference. It's more like Zoom. And just keep in mind when you choose that, that's only for you. So I encouraged my students to also change their layout. And that was updated partway through. Before that, I used the grid view extension. You don't need to use that anymore. They can just change their layout in here. Let's see what else. If you go up to the top, you can manage your participants here. So if you click on this little person, it will show a list of who is in your meeting. And since there's no one in my meeting, I'm just gonna go to the document that I shared with you. If you have a student in the meeting, you can pin them to the screen, which would make them stay as the big screen. So if they were sharing or presenting something, you could use that. You can mute them. That was helpful when there was a lot of background noise coming from someone and they were having a hard time finding their mute button or just not really paying attention. So you can mute them, but you can't unmute them. So if they want to talk, then they have to unmute themselves. And you can also remove them. So at the end of the meeting, you could use this to make sure everybody's out before you hang up if they weren't hung up yet. So those were some options for participants. There's the chat button right here, which is very similar to Zoom. So it's located right up top next to the participants. Your ability to mute yourself or turn on and off your camera is at the bottom. And then the red button to leave the call. If you want to record, oh, question?
How do you turn the chat off?
I don't know that that's possible.
Oh, it's not possible?
Not that I'm aware of, Beth. I don't know if you know. I don't think.
No, it's not. You just have to train your kids.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to cut them off and tell them to stop.
Right. It got better at first. It was really, they were so excited too, just to see each other. They were using it a lot. And then I just reminded them, just like in class, we're not passing notes to each other. We had to use that for classroom purposes.
Judy, when I did that with my kids, there were times when they could chat, but you know, our kids type so slowly that it would take them probably your whole meet to get something in there. But I noticed at the end, then they would say, Julie, call me after we're done, or things like that, which was fine. But I just told them there was no chatting while I was presenting or doing my things. And there wasn't one kid that didn't comply with that. They were awesome with it. They'll listen.
Yeah. So I used Google Meet to record my lessons just because it was simple and it was all in one place. So in the mornings, I would make a Google Meet for myself while my kids were still sleeping. And then I would click these 3 buttons and I would just record my lesson. And then you do have to accept that you have consent to record. So then it will record anything you see on your screen. So you could present your screen, which I'll show you how to do. It shows up in the top left-hand corner that you're recording. So if I wanted to present something, I would click this Present Now button. I typically did my entire screen so that I was just navigating through whatever I saw, they saw. And then, so I'll just show you that real quick. You do have to click this button or click your screen. So you have to click that first and then click share, and it will share your whole screen with them, just like I'm doing now with Zoom. And then when you're done, there's a button on the bottom that says stop presenting. When you're done recording, you can just click those 3 dots again and click stop recording. And then you have to click it again. And that will disappear. It gets saved to your drive, and I'll show you that. And it takes a couple minutes for it to upload, but it also will get emailed to you. So in my email, I have a couple of neat recordings from when I was practicing earlier. So you can click on that and it will show up. And then you can preview it. You can use these 3 buttons to share it, or so you could email it right to people by sharing it here. And it always picks the best like image of your face.
So Caitlin, when you did that, when I taped some different lessons, I always got a narrow screen. Was that, how do I get it wider? It was very narrow, what the kids saw.
I'm not sure.
Are you talking, Judy, about using, like, to record using Google Meet?
I thought I was using Google Meet.
So it wasn't like this?
No, it wasn't that wide. It was only about half that.
I wonder if it has something to do with your webcam settings.
I used my iPad to record. I used Google Meet on my iPad.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I have another question for you about down below the picture before it said turn captions on.
Yeah.
Those captions, will those work only for something recorded, or will they work like in a Zoom meeting as well?
They will work in a Zoom meeting. They're auto generated, so they're not always great, but I had students tell me they would put them on and it would put captions on there.
You're going to have a student you're going to want to instruct in that, because she had a terrible time with Zoom meetings. And she couldn't follow what people were saying because she didn't know who was talking. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Hearing disability?
Yep. So you can see right here that it's putting all the captions up here for
I
us.
wish I would have known that, but she finally opted out of Zoom meetings because it was just overwhelming. She couldn't follow.
Right. Yep, so that is an option there. And I'll just show you one other place your meetings do get saved to your drive. So if you're in your Google Drive and if you click the arrow by My Drive, it will automatically create a folder called Neat Recordings. And so when you choose that, you can see all of your Neat recordings. So you could get a shareable link for them. I'm assuming that might be helpful if you're making a slide deck to get the shareable link. Otherwise, you can post them right in Google Classroom. When you create material, you can click Google Drive and find them there. So again, if I right click on this, I can get a shareable link that I could put on a slide or in a stream or in an email and use that. I think that's really all I have. And then when you're done, you just click the hang up button to leave the call. If all of your students are out and you gave it a nickname, they should not be able to rejoin.
Caitlin, could you go back and click on that shareable?
Oh, yeah.
That shareable link, because then you have a bunch of choices. And
Right.
sometimes I was puzzled with those choices. It seemed to change halfway through when we were working from home. Their choices changed.
Yeah, so if you want the link under Get Link, right now it's restricted and it would only be people that I added right here that could see it, even if I use the link. But if I click Change Link to Tomorrow River School District, I get some other options too. So this would mean that if they had the link and they were logged into their Tomorrow River School District account, they could see it. So if a parent was trying to access it and they didn't have that TRSD account, they would not be able to. If I change it to anyone with the link, I can send it to anyone or post it wherever I want, and they will be able to see it if they have the link.
And when would you use that option?
This one?
Yeah, anyone with the link.
I would use it if you were sending it to parents because they don't have like if you're sending it to parent emails, they don't have a Tomorrow River School District account necessarily. So if you chose this one, they would not be able to view it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. All right, so I'm just gonna change that back.
Is there an issue with sending recorded lectures or Google Meets with other students to parents? Sherry?
I don't think so, as long as if it's you that's in the recording. If not, if you have students in there, if you have anyone who is opted out of any of the social media, video, photo, any of those things, you wouldn't want them in the video that you share. But if it's you, not at all.
Okay, so I should feel comfortable sending like lectures or presentations that's just me to a parent, but maybe not a recording of a live classroom, for example.
Right. I mean, like I said, if it's a live classroom, if it doesn't have the kids, you know, the view of the kids in there, that's fine too. And if it does have view of kids, just make sure it's not anybody that had any, you know, opt out of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's also a good question for why, like, I know that someone's doing a PD on Screencast-O-Matic. Making your videos on that makes it easier for you to be able to control what people see. So if you wanted to share a lesson with parents, like if a kid missed a day or whatever, then it would just have you on there and you could share that. Whereas if you're using Google Meet to record your lesson, you're going to see the kids' faces. So.
And I don't know, Beth, is it called Ensemble? Is that what the CISA 10, 11, I think?
That's something else. The CISA 10 is that ensemble thing that you guys are talking about. I looked it up. I can talk to you about that later.
Yeah, and it's another video thing, like
it's
recording. Never mind.
So that was like the Google Classroom and Meet portion that we had. The other stuff that we have is for our reading journeys and our Envision math. So do we want to keep going and share those right now?
I know that is a hot topic for people in wanting to know how to link those in there. So if you are not, if you can't stay anymore and you want to get out, go ahead. This will be recorded. If you want to stay on and learn more about that, you can do that if you don't use Journeys or our Envision Math. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
guys.
I'll be
Great
bowing
job.
out. But
Thank you so much, guys.
I wasn't part of the shared paperwork that you sent out. Would you be able to get that to me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks for all your help.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
See you on Thursday, Beth.
See you then.
All right. So Kristen, do you mind if I start with Journeys and then we'll leave on a really high note with Envision?
Go for it.
Okay. All right. So I played a lot with Journeys and I'm also still trying to get in touch with some people to see if there's some other resources for us, but I've got it figured out a way that we can make it work. So I'm going to close some tabs here. All right, so if you go to Think Central for Journeys and log in, mine does work with Amherst Elementary School now. I believe last year Priscilla at some point switched that. I know we had to at first change this to middle school, but it does work with elementary school now. And then you can log in. And the first thing I'll show you how to do is add your students. So if you click on Manage Classes, and then click on Classes, and add a student. You can add your students. So you'll have to choose their grade level and then enter their names. So I don't know if I already added Everly, but I'm gonna add Everly in there. And I'm just thinking it might be helpful if we make their usernames consistent with their like email usernames. Sherry, do you think that would be helpful?
I think they would be able to remember it.
Okay, so that might be helpful too, so that we can reuse their accounts like next year and pull them over. Otherwise, if we all kind of create their different usernames, it's hard to import them from the previous year. So I'll do that and then a password. And then you have to confirm it. And there's some other options on here, but then I can just click add. And I would do that for all my students. So then I would just go to classes and add another student until I had them all. And then once they're all in there, then you can go to classes and go under find and manage your classes. That's where you can create a new class. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can click add class. And so I'll just call this one demo.
Caitlin, they all need unique passwords, correct?
No.
No, you can give them all the same one?
Yep, and I did that, like I had a classroom password that I used for my students. Now, when we went virtual, some of them ended up changing their passwords for security, but, and it was recommended to them, and then their parents would send me what it was or keep track of it, but I start out with all the same password. So then when I make my class, I choose the name and the grade. And then here you have to choose which products you want available to your class. So mine is checked just all the 4th grade products. If you don't want them to be able to see the extra stuff, you can get rid of some of that. The main thing that students would need to be able to see for me was the student book. So if I wanted to get rid of some of this so they see less on their account, I could.
And does the performance assessment, would they get to see all of the tests ahead of time then, are you saying?
I'm not sure. I never used the performance assessment. It is not the same as the assessments that I'll show you how to assign, but you could definitely uncheck that because they probably don't need it. And you can always add it later. So then I would click assign students. And this is where you have to look through and find all of your students that you want to add. Now, I'm working on finding out if there's a good way to delete students that are no longer needed in that system. But for right now, I'll just show you I can add Everly. Where is she? So I can add her. Kathy River has been joining many of my classes lately. And I should use her so I can add her. And then once you get all your students in there, you can click done. And then your class will show up under the classes tab. So then once you've got your class set up, you can assign them things. So I always click back in the top left-hand corner on this Think Central button, and it will take me to this main screen. And the easiest way that I've found to navigate, there are so many options on how to access the resources, but this Browse button on the right-hand side, if you click that and then choose your book, over on the left-hand side, Program Structure. This is laid out just like your teacher's manuals. So if I was working on Unit 1 and I was on the 2nd story, Lesson 2, if I wanted to assign them the reading, I would click Day 1 and then Whole Group Instruction. And I can see right here I have the student book, Read and Comprehend. If you wanted to see what that was, you could just click here and it will pull up what the student book looks like. So this is what their assignment would take them to. And then I can just click this button here to assign. And so I'll call this, it was my brother Martin. And then my instructions might just be to read or listen to the story. They do have the option to listen to all of the text. And then I have to choose my class. And you do have to pick a subject. And then if you can make groups in there, I'm not going to go into that right now, but I can choose the students that I want to add. I'm just going to click add all. That brings her over. Here are the dates that it would be available to. And then I can click save. And yes. All right, so then I'll show you again how to access all of the assessment resources that are in Journeys. So if I go back to that blue button, that Think Central, and then I click Browse, and I choose grade 4. Program structure, I was on Unit 1 and the second story. You can find all of the assessment resources on day 5. And it says assessment. And the weekly tests are under online assessment. I could click on that to see them, but I'll show you them in another place. If I click assign, these are like the comprehension check, the vocabulary quizzes, the grammar, those are all here. So I might just say that this is my brother Martin comprehension. And I'll make my instructions do your best. I'm gonna assign it to this class. And then I'm gonna add all of my students. Here's the due dates. And then this is important for assigning the assessments. It says select or selections and questions. So if I click on select questions, it will show me all the questions that this would assign to students. So it has all the 10 vocabulary questions. I can expand. So these are like the checks that we would normally print out. If I didn't want to give them any of the vocabulary questions, I could uncheck that. I'm just gonna do the comprehension. So the first 10 are those multiple choice questions. There are essay questions too that you can include. If you don't want those, you can just uncheck individual questions. I'm gonna uncheck decoding, uncheck grammar, and then save. So I just wanted the comprehension, and now I can see that I only have one of the 4 sections there.
How do you link this assignment onto your Google Classroom?
I will show you. I promise. I worked on a couple different ways to make that work. And I'm thinking it might look a little bit different if we're using slide decks, but I will show you. I'll show you. So I'm gonna.
Are these the same questions that are on the hard copies that we have in our manuals?
The multiple choice ones are. The essay ones are extra. I didn't see those in our manuals per se, but there's so much in there that.
Yes. And it will self-grade them for you also.
Yes, it will. So after the students take that, I can show you, once they've taken one, you'll see this button under assignments. There's a button that says results and prescriptions. So if I click on that, I can see that Kathy River got 90%. And if I want to see what questions she got incorrect, I can click on that, and I can see all of the questions for that.
She's a smart girl, that Kathy River.
She is. She is. And she hasn't read this story for a year. She still got 90%. So that's creating, like, assigning the book and assigning the assessments. Now, to put it on Google Classroom, what I found to be the best way was, and this might look a little different when we're linking it to the slide decks, but if I created an assignment, and I'm gonna name it my brother Martin. My instructions might be to first read or reread the story and then answer the comprehension check. What I'm gonna do is just add a link to bring them to Think Central. So I'm gonna click add link, and then I have this link on your Journeys handout. That will be in that shared drive. So it's towards the end. If you just copy that link. And then paste it. And then click add link. You could make it ungraded, or you could change the points. You could put it under whatever topic you wanted. I don't have topics yet. And then you click assign.
Caitlin, where did that link come from one more time?
In that drive that Kristen shared with you yesterday, the Google Gadgets drive,
Okay.
I have a document called Journeys Digital Resources, and I put that in there towards the bottom.
So will the link change each time, or is it always the same?
Always the same. So then what students would see this link, and they would click on it, and then they have to log into their Journeys account. So it's putting their assignment in one place, but they do have to navigate to Think Central to do the work. So if I put in, I'm gonna use Kathy River. So the student would log in, and their screen looks a lot different than ours. So they would click on things to do, and then it would have these assignments in there. So this was one that I made a while ago just to try it out. So they would click on first My Brother Martin to read it, and they have to click twice there. It opens a new tab, which I did this with my students a couple times, and they got pretty good at going back and forth between the tabs, so they could read the book, read the story on this tab, and then they'll have to come back over to their Think Central to answer the questions. So here's the comprehension questions. If they're done with it, they can click done so that it disappears from their list. And then comprehension, they click on that, and it will open a new tab, and they can start the test and go through that.
Caitlin, is there a way of attaching a date to those assignments so that if I want to work ahead and set up the assignments for the week, but I don't want them to see those assignments until that day, is there a way of linking a date to it?
Yeah, so when you create your assignment, you input the dates that you want it to be available.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so then when they're done with their test, it'll get scored, and I believe they can see their score right away if you give them that option. They can switch and navigate the questions here. And I really worked on training my students last year to also go back into the book. So if they open that other tab to, read while they're answering the questions.
Caitlin, so the scoring is taking place in Think Central, not in Google Classroom.
Correct.
Okay.
And it doesn't automatically input those things into Google Classroom. So yeah, the scoring happens in Think Central.
Can that test be read to them? Is there something that will read it?
I have not, I at first thought that we had learned there was a way, but it reads the text to them from the textbook. It does not read the quizzes to them. There are some extensions on Google that have read like everything on the screen that we could look into more, but I think those were free just due to COVID stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna click that test. And there are so many resources on Think Central, but I thought these would be like a good way to get started, just assigning the story and any assessments. Questions?
That was awesome. That was really awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to make it simple because I know when she came and shared with us last year, there's so much that it's hard to navigate, but these were some of those basic things. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, so now what I'll talk about is our math series. So it's still Envision Math, but it's under a different name. So it's SavisRealize.com. So when I go there, I'm going into the same math. It just looks extremely different. So let me share with you what that will look like. Okay, so when you need to log in for math, your screen will look something like this. Hopefully you've already made your new account. If you haven't, you would click sign up. It'll ask you who you are. It'll ask you where you teach, what grade you teach. And you can use the same username and password as you did with Pearson SuccessNet. And that'll ask you that right in there. Would you like to use that same username and password? And I did click yes. So when I sign in, it's going to be using the same thing.
Kristen, I actually just clicked sign in and used my name and password from last year, and I believe it worked.
Oh, beautiful. That's even better. All right. Oops. Oops. Try again.
And Kristen also put this link right on the document that she put in that shared drive. So if you open that, you can get right to the sign-in page.
Here we go. Much better this time. All right. So it looks very different, but it does have a lot of great capabilities. The first thing you're going to want to do is either create a class or link your Google Classroom. Okay. So if you're using Google Classroom as your main hub, you would go over here to settings, click settings. And then if you go down to the bottom of this page, there's something right here that says account linking, and it asks you, would you like to link your Google Classroom? Okay, and I have one linked already, but you could import, it'll say, would you like to import a Google Classroom? You would click yes. And what it'll ask you is which class would you like to import, and whatever ones you have available will be ones that'll be options. So I have 2 available. So if I chose it, then it'll ask me which program in the math series do I want to link this classroom to. My answer is the 4th grade Envisions Math. Each grade level is different, but that's what I would choose. I'm not going to because there's already one imported, but you would click import and it would drop your students in there. And it would allow you to do everything for assignments in Realize, but your scores would go in Realize and they would go in Google Classroom. So kind of neat. If you're not using Google Classroom as your main hub, so if you're using Seesaw, I'll show you how to get to that in 1 second. So let me get out of this screen. One second. What is it? Hold on. Okay, here we go. So if you do not have a Google Classroom, okay, you're going to go up to classes and you're going to create a class. Okay, and when you click create a class, it's going to ask you to do a bunch of different things, just like it did when you created your account as a teacher. So it's going to ask you to name your class. It's going to ask you to choose a class picture or a background picture icon for your class. Your program you're still going to choose, so whatever your mathematics grade is, And here is the beautiful thing. In the beginning, if you already know your students, you can add them all right here. Okay, and kind of what Caitlin said, we're hoping to be able to stay with your student names are what they are, but the username, we're hoping to stay with the first 4 of your last name, the first 4 of your first name, and then put the password in as something that they would remember. You know, in 4th grade, we tried a lot use like our names and something. There's a security feature with Savvis that does not allow you to use a password that relates in any way to a student's last name or first name. It's a safety feature, so we've been using other things that are not that.
Can they all have the same password, Kristen?
Yes, they can. Absolutely. And if you would have a student that comes in at a later date, I'll show you how to add that kid as well. And then they're going to ask you to choose a student theme. So when your students log in, this is what they're going to see. The default theme is more geared towards upper elementary, so it looks a lot more complex. It's a lot busier. The early learning theme, which the demo student I made has the early learning theme for us, is more simplistic, very easy to navigate, but you can choose, and you could choose today and decide you want to change it. You can change it later. So that is where you would create your class. So I did that. So let me go to my demo class. Okay. So inside your demo class, you have lots of options. You have assignments, you have calendar, you have discussion, you have students and groups. So this is where all your students would be once you put them in. So I made Audrey as a demo student, but I can add another student to show you what that looks like. So okay, then we'll just play this. Nope.
It's wanting you to, yeah.
I know, sorry. All right. So if we do that, then I would take the first 4 of the last name, the first 4 of the first name, and the password, I would make something that all of my students would have, but that way at least I could help if they, at this time, had struggles. So when you click done, it'll show this child is now also in your class, which is wonderful. And this will help you be able to assign assignments to this specific classroom. Now, if you have a class that is linked to Google Classroom, it will show up, and the only difference you'll see is that it'll show the chalkboard icon, which is great. That means you have the right kind of classroom to link everything in. If you're not using Google Classroom and you're using Seesaw, you would have your demo class, and what you would do is assign everything in Realize, and we put a link to get you to Realize, kind of like what Caitlin had to do with Think Central. Any questions so far? Okay. So if we get to the point where we would like to assign assignments, like content, you would go to Browse, and before it asked you what grade you taught, so that it was able to link the correct math series for you. So if I click on 4th grade, and we go inside, you get a table of contents. It shows you a bunch of different things that you're able to use with your students. So classroom videos, readiness tests, or you can just go right down to topics. So these are just like the topics we have that we teach in our classrooms. So if we go into like topic 1, for example, and I would like to assign something. Let's go to 1-2, so place value in relationships. So if I click on that, inside there, you're gonna have lots of options. The text is always an option. Your teacher's text in your student text is under e-text, if you need to assign that in there as well. But the anytime options, they said these are things you could assign as daily warm-ups or at the end of class for kids that finish early. So like the challenge problem would be here. Your problem-based learning is something they have you assign in the beginning to see what they know. And your visual learning, those are your videos that share that with you, and your practice problems where students can take the time to practice what they've learned. So you can individually just assign one. Okay, just by clicking assign, it's gonna ask you what you want to title it, so you can change that. You can choose the start date, so like I could choose today, and they could have until Thursday to do it. And it could say, you know, practice problems 1 through 5. Okay, and over here, you can enter either a specific student or person. So like I could type in Austin. So Austin would show up, so I could assign it to one student if I wanted to, okay, in my demo class. So then I would click assign. Otherwise, different things pop up too. So like if I wanted to assign the whole thing to my Google Classroom, I could as well. I will assign it to Austin because he's already there, and then you just click assign. Okay, now if you get to an understanding of you want to assign multiple things at once, you can also do that by creating a playlist. Okay, so let me show you that. So if I want to take a little bit from each one, I can click add to playlist. And if I created a playlist, I could choose it in the drop-down box. I only have one created for 1-1, so I want to create a new one because this is a new topic. So I'll do 1-2. Okay, create my playlist. So from here, what I can do now is click on anything to add to that playlist. So if I want to start with this one, add to playlist. Okay, I can go down to 1-2, click add. So far there's one thing in my playlist. Okay, now I want to go down and grab some other things. So I want to look at the video. Okay, I want to add that to my playlist. So again, I go down to 1-2, I click add.
Would you do one playlist per day or per week?
You could do it per topic that you teach. So like if you're doing 1-1, you could do that for Monday. If you're going to stay on 1-1, you could create another playlist with other pieces from 1-1, or you could do Tuesday as 1-2 if you could move on from that topic. Just depends how much practice your students need on the given topic.
Thank you.
Okay, so then when you assign something like that in your library, it shows up to show you where it is located. And you can push assign all because it's a playlist. It has multiple things attached to it. So there's 2 items attached to it here. So I can click assign all, and it's going to ask me where do I want to assign it to and who do I want to assign it to. So same thing again. So I could choose today through tomorrow, let's say. Okay, watch the video and then do your best on the student assignment. Okay, and here you could once again look at, so this time I could assign this one to my Google Classroom and click assign. Okay, so let me show you where they both ended up because they both ended up in 2 different places. So this will depend on what platform you're using. So if I go into classes and I am not connected to Google Classroom, I would go into my demo class and it shows my assignments here by class. So it shows me that, it's one I created when I was playing around with it, but there's one here and it shows me that no one has completed it yet. It shows me the due date and the time. And it shows me other things that I can change if I want to. I don't necessarily need to, but if you needed to make some edits, you could. Okay, or you can look by your students. So far it was assigned to Austin. So Austin has that in his assignments. And I will log in as Austin so you can see what your students would see. But as the teacher, you can see did they start it yet or not, and their overall score.
Kristen, can I have you show one other thing if you go under the browse?
Yep.
Because there's like PDF assignments that you can assign, but then there's also the online ones and they have different icons. So if you're on topic 1, And then 1 dash whatever. So the problem solving one, they can actually like draw and solve problems on the computer. And then the student edition practice, that's a PDF, but the practice buddy, that's like interactive. So they can choose their answers on there, and I believe it will self-grade those.
And then it does offer assessment and differentiation too. So enrichment or reteaching.
Yeah, so anything with a little paper by it, I believe is just a PDF. But then if it has the little pencil by it, it's interactive and online.
Kristen, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is everything in this math program to be used through, like if we're at school, we would use it in the same way? I would like to see, like, where in the heck's the teacher's manual? You know, where's that online manual so I can see what's all there, what all these things are without me clicking on that? Can you show me the steps to teaching a lesson? What's first, what's next?
So what I gathered from that, and can I just show you where all those assignments ended up, just so people know?
Oh, yep. Sorry.
Okay, yes, but I can. Absolutely. Okay. So if you are a demo student, I showed you that it can show by student who your assignments are and what they are. So Audrey, I demoed with something else, but Austin, it showed you the one I just assigned. And then if you go into your other Google Class, so like my Google Classroom, it still shows, now she's got 2 not completed, but it shows you what she has assigned to her. And when I toggle into my classroom, it will show me, 1 second. Oh, sorry, classwork. That you can link your assignments right into Google Classroom so that when the kids log in, they can click right on the thing and it'll take them right into Savvis. And it will ask them if it is okay that their Google account is used with Savvis Realize. So they don't have to log in a second time. They just have to choose their Google account that would show up, which is really nice for them because they don't have to sign in twice.
And did you say that's automatically done if you were in the Google Classroom link?
Because sorry, Kathy, it already imported your roster, so it knows who your kids are.
Awesome.
So, and Google Classroom found Savvis to ask if they could link together to make this an easy transition. So, really a cool thing that we have there. So if you're a student and you're not a Google Classroom person and you need to sign in, let me sign in as Austin so you can see what they see now that Austin has an assignment. Okay, hold on. Sorry, one more time.
Kristen, I think you spelled Falcons wrong when you were.
Oh, something.
I think you put the C before the L. Try that.
Okay, so let's see. C before the what?
C before the L, I think.
All right, I'm sorry. Let me do this one more time.
Now you've done it too many times and it is gonna block you.
I probably will. There, okay, so I signed in as Audrey. So just as another student, okay, this is what your student would see. They log in, okay, and it shows who they are. They get to choose their little icon, and then they go into my work. And right here, it'll show the assignment that I've assigned Audrey, which I assigned earlier than today. But it'll show them their text, which is nice, and these tools. This is what I love. So they can click on the Get Started assignment if they wanted to, okay? And it shows them their steps. I want them to watch the video first, then I want them to do the practice, and then they can send it to their teacher. If they are working on their assignment and they need something like fraction strips or they need counters, they can go to Math Tools, and it's going to open in another window, which is wonderful, okay? They can choose what they need, okay? So they can choose it right here, okay? And they can choose exactly what they feel they need to solve the problem successfully. And this is another window. So they can toggle between this and their assignment, which is right here. So they can toggle between the two because their counters are right here. And this is all inside their Savvis account. Like if we go down to the bottom, the directions said something that I wrote like do numbers 6 through 16. So looking at this, okay, I need to write an expanded form. So do I need to use counters? No, but they can use Math Tools if they would need them and be able to answer the questions at the same time. Any questions so far?
So then they just write their answer on another paper?
Yep, and so they can, if you choose the PDF with the digital, they have the option to be able to like write on the screen and work that way too.
And those are called the Practice Buddy, and they have a little pen instead of that piece of paper. So then they would be interactive and self-graded.
Yeah. So if you're not working with Google Classroom, the best way that we could find to do this, and Beth kind of talked about like making a Google slide and being able to import it into Seesaw. So I did that, I just made a Google slide. And what I could do on it was still write their to-dos, like I want you to watch the video, complete this, don't forget this is your username and password, you're gonna need your math notebook, your pencil, and your headphones. And this link right here would bring them to, and she's already logged in, would bring them to the Savvis Realize site like this, and they would sign in using their username and password. And then it would pop up like we just saw with Audrey to the screen where her assignment is located and she can get to work. Any questions about that? All right. Kathy, do you want me to go back and show you kind of what they explained as a way to use the online tools? Like all of the options? Kathy?
So I know that I found a really good video that I can put on there that explains how all of the lessons are like a 3-step lesson. And under Browse, it has those 3 steps. So it's like a problem solving part, and then it has the video lesson, and then it has the practice. And kind of what I envision doing is making those playlists and using those 3 parts like as my lesson plans.
They have
video. They're used to using them in case they need to go virtual.
Here, hold on, let me show you that. They have great demo pieces that are live virtual demos that you can watch, or webinars sometimes that you can watch to learn all about the way to use their online tools. And I'll just show you where you can get to that button. Once you sign in as a teacher, up here, there's something called program training. You click on this. And in here, it says like watch webinars. You can watch webinars, okay, to get some of the basics, like Google down here. You could watch to get more information from them. Otherwise, they do have videos to explain.
I think at the top you have to choose your program. So it says find your program. It would be Envision.
I don't think it's mathematics though. Let's see what happens when I do this. I feel like I did this once, Caitlin, and it didn't come up with anything.
Huh. Is it just Envision, not Envisions?
Here we go. Envision.
So then 2020 mathematics.
2020 mathematics Common Core. Yep. So here, and this is what Caitlin's talking about, it can give you insight into different pieces or how to use the different pieces of the program.
So number 2 is the one I watched. It talks about the 3-step lessons.
Yep. There you go. The 3-step lesson design and to start making Realize a Place to Learn. So they're very informative. They're very knowledgeable. Easy. They make it very easy to walk through the steps.
Is the 3-step lesson the same as like a 3-act task?
No, I think the 3-act test is like a performance assessment piece. That was my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, so it gives you a lot of different things that you can just watch. And they're not, some of them are not very long. They're like 2 to 6 minutes. And some of them are documents. So they're not all videos you can watch.
Kristen, did you point us to the teacher manual? I had to step away for a minute.
Absolutely, Kathy. We just did. So let me show you what
You know
we
what? No,
oh.
skip it. I'll watch the video. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So if there are no other questions, Caitlin, anything else?
I was just gonna say this was really easy to navigate, and once I created a playlist, I felt like I could make my lesson plans so quickly or sub plans so quickly because they could just use that playlist and go right through like everything. There's a warm up, there's a video like teaching the lesson, and then there's the assignment. It's set up really nicely.
Thank you very much, guys.
Great.
This was really great.
And it's a lot, but like
Yes,
we said, all the documents to have all the step-by-step with pictures too.
Yep. Thanks, you guys.
That's awesome. I will link this recording. I'm going to send it, Kristen, Caitlin, if I send it to you, will you be able to put it in your documents then too?
Yep.
And then I just, for like our subs and stuff like that, I'm just creating a really simple, here's this link, and here's this link. And I'll send that out to staff too.
I was also thinking about, I'm going to set up a Google site for me for providing support to you guys. That'll have a Google form for you to sign up for sessions with me. And I will put the links to those videos and all the videos that I do on that Google site.
Steph, do we have
That'd be awesome.
address for you?
I do not have an email address yet.
Okay.